Okay, Alec, this is part of a series I'm doing called Meet the Innovators. And I think, very interesting because what I'm finding is so many entrepreneurs like you would like to learn from others that have already gone through a journey so they can learn from that experience and, above all, miss the pitfalls of making mistakes from your experience. So let's start with exactly what your business is. What is Liquid Piston?
Sure. So at LiquidPiston, we develop extremely compact, efficient rotary combustion engines. We're really kind of changing the way people do engines.
Now, I mean, is this a major innovation in terms of efficiency? What drives people to move away from a standard combustion to this?
Right. We're looking at something that's over 150 years old, right? The engine really is something that's ripe for disruption. It hasn't changed in this period of time materially. My father and I started this company. My dad's a physicist. He really kind of took it back and looked at the engine as a system, starting with a thermodynamic cycle. So if you look at how the engine works today in your car, for example, you're only converting about 15% of the energy in the car into useful mechanical work. The rest is wasted as heat out the tailpipe or out the radiator. So just from a pure physics perspective, we're leaving a lot on the table, and we just think that we can do a lot better than that. So our approach has been to start with optimizing the thermodynamic cycle. And after we change the cycle, we completely change the architecture of the engine as we know it. We have to rethink everything. It's like changing the software and the hardware at the same time. And the result is a incredible gain in efficiency. We're about 30% more fuel efficient than a diesel engine, but also it's a very compact and efficient package. We have two moving parts, so it's really simple, but it's about 10 times smaller and lighter than a traditional diesel engine.
Now, obviously, I'm hoping you're an engineer, that you pulled this off. Your dad's a physicist. What's your training?
So my dad's a physicist, PhD in physics, and my background's in computer science and neuroscience. So I'm a scientist. I'm not really an engineer. I started out, I was doing my PhD at MIT in robotics, and I was helping him. And then one thing led to another. And after I finished my PhD, I joined the company full time.
Couple of smart dudes, bottom line, right?
Well, yes, but we also are not engine people per se, right? We come at it from basic scientific principles, just kind of asking how does this stuff work? How can we make it better?
Well,
Just
maybe
looking at it
maybe by thinking out of the box, you came up with this extraordinary opportunity. I mean,
exactly.
if this actually does what you claim, this is a complete retooling of an engine that's been around, as you say, a very long time. Are you getting traction out in the market, or people? Because I know changes like this that are, disruptive to say the least, can sometimes take long to get traction. How are you experiencing getting any market share with this?
That's right. And it takes a long time and a lot of money actually to kind of bring a new technology like this into being. So for us, we've been focused initially on developing the technology, proving it. And today we have the technology inserted into small ground vehicles. You can actually come to our facility and drive around in a little go-kart powered by a 5 horsepower engine the size of a small cantaloupe. We have it powering a UAV, a 55-pound UAV that we did with the Army, and that's running on jet fuel. So the first step in that process was to prove the technology. And right now, the company's at a really exciting point in time where the technology is now working. It's more or less proven. Now it's about transitioning into the commercial market. So in the last 12 months, we've signed 4 partnership agreements. These kind of start as feasibility pilot programs. They were funded studies, over $1 million of funding from these studies, where we are looking at taking our technology and packaging it for and adapting it for the specific partner requirements. So there's a lot of ways to enter the market. It might be very tempting to start with the automotive market. That's by far the biggest market. But you're right, Kevin, that would take 20 years to penetrate a market like that, which is so conservative and slow moving to change. So what we've done, we've identified much smaller niche markets. These are still multi-billion dollar opportunities for us, but the big players really aren't chasing these areas very hard. And for us, that means mobile electric power generation. So imagine what the military, for example, what they use today for a 30 kilowatt generator. It weighs 2,400 pounds. You need a truck to move it around. They have thousands of these, you know, powering everything that we do in Afghanistan, Iraq, everywhere. And half of our fatalities and casualties in Iraq and Afghanistan were supporting fuel logistics, which is just incredible. Imagine if we can take these massive systems and reduce them to something that a couple people can carry around. Instead of 2,400 pounds, they'd be a few hundred pounds. So we're really excited about opportunities like that. Small power generation, auxiliary power for aircraft, that's a big one for us, and powering UAVs. These are kind of the three initial focal points that we're starting with, and we have partners established on each of these areas.
Are you getting traction in those markets now, or are these just opening up? Have you actually got proof of concept in the field, for example, for the military, or are you just beginning?
These are starting as proof of concept. So we have to adapt the demonstrators that we've shown in the lab, and we're adapting them for the specific technology areas. But we definitely are, you know, through these customer relationships that we have, we are demonstrating traction. And to be clear, our business model, we're not setting up to be a manufacturer of engines. I'm not selling engines to the average person. What I'm doing is I'm selling the technology. We're licensing the technology and partnering with, you know, large established players to introduce the technology to their markets. There's a lot of, you know, companies out there that are really good at manufacturing. They have the sales, the service, the distribution channels. They already have the 4-star generals sitting on their boards. They know how to do business with the Army. I don't have to redo all of that from scratch. I can take what my company's good at. You know, we have a team of 20 really dedicated engineers in Bloomfield, Connecticut. We're an innovation house. So we're a technology company. We have 51 patents on the technology, and we're packaging that up and providing engineering services to these organizations, and then licensing the technology to them.
What was the biggest problem you had in getting started up? I always ask an entrepreneur that because there's a plethora of issues you have to deal with. But if you can think back, what was your real heartache?
Where do we start? So we incorporated the company in 2004. So we're building now on over 15 years of research and development. You know, this is not something that's easy and trivial to do. And in fact, if it was easy and trivial, somebody else honestly would have done it, right? So for us, it was really about coming at it from a different angle, starting with the physics. And I can't tell you how many people told us, Alec, Nick, this will never work. They said, just don't even try. And you know what? We persisted. Every time we hit a roadblock, we found a different direction. So I think just having that persistence and the entrepreneurial spirit is part of what it takes to do something like this.
Obviously, you've had success financing this on StartEngine, but I'm interested in finding out what you did before you met StartEngine. Did you just walk from one venture capitalist to another and beg for money? What did you do before for capital?
Back in 2007, we were funded by venture capital. So for a number of years, we were actually extremely fortunate to be venture capital funded. And so we've had about $20 million of venture capital in the company, and about $4 million in private investment in addition to venture capital. And then transitioning from there, we attracted government funding. So we've been working with DARPA, which is the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. They're famous for inventing things like the internet and GPS technology as we know it. They're kind of the research arm of the US Army. And we've also been working with the Army itself. So about $9 million in grants from DARPA and the Army. And then more recently, we've been doing crowdfunding. So kind of a mix of funding for the company.
Well, that's interesting because you're a good example of a transition out of the traditional venture capital model to StartEngine. How did that work for you, and why did you do it?
So we kind of were exploring, and with StartEngine, we've done 2 prior rounds of crowdfunding. So with StartEngine, it was our 3rd round of crowdfunding. And what we experience is just kind of every time we do it, you know, it really resonates with folks. And what we're finding is that people become our brand ambassadors. You know, it's a great way for the company to interact with average people out there and to kind of get, I hate to use the word following, but to get a large number of enthusiastic people. We have 4,000 investors now. These guys they're not just investors. They're passionate about what we do, and they advertise for us. They tell people about us. So it's more than just money. So that there's kind of those 2 components there.
Having been an entrepreneur that's experienced the traditional VC process, and now what you've done on StartEngine successfully, what can you tell others the differences are?
There's a number of differences. So when you walk into a venture capital office, you know, you're forced to work with one or maybe a few people, and it's a very different dynamic. What crowdfunding allows you to do, it really democratizes the process. If you don't like the company, if you don't like the opportunity, you walk away. But there's plenty of people that do like the opportunity, and it really just allows good ideas to come out. And it's not so limited as what we find in the venture capital world. Now, in the VC world, people honestly, they chase a very narrow set of ideas. So today, if you're not doing autonomy, if you're not doing you know, self-driving cars and these types of things, you find yourself very limited, right? VCs like software. They like plays where they can make their money back in 3, 4, 5 years. If you're a hardware play, it's a very hard sell to a VC today.
So if you think about the timeline, how fast were you able to get going on StartEngine? Were you surprised? Did it take longer, less time? What was the experience like?
We were blown away. So we launched at around 10 a.m. on January 3rd, and we were oversubscribed with $1.07 million, the legal SEC limit. We were oversubscribed within 9 hours. And the amazing thing is we can't advertise ahead of time. So that was kind of organic, but it really, we were just kind of blown away by the whole thing.
How did the StartEngine platform actually connect you with your investors? What do they do to make that happen?
So they have a network of thousands of investors, so they help connect that way. So StartEngine was very helpful there, but really we didn't even get the marketing machine going. The campaign closed out so quickly.
Why do you think people responded so quickly? This 9-hour metric is really interesting to those that are listening, because that's extraordinary. What worked? Why do you think that happened? What's the DNA of a successful deal like that?
Yeah, to our knowledge, it might be the fastest Reg CF in history, which is really amazing. So if you look at what is successfully funded on Reg CF and crowdfunding, a lot of consumer-oriented companies are doing very well. Companies that already have the brand and people, you know, awareness. For us, it's a little bit different. We're not really a consumer company, but what we find, there's a lot of investors that, number one, might be techno geeks, right? There's a lot of people that we meet that they have an old RX-7 car and they know the rotary engine, they love it. Engineers are fascinated by the sheer elegance of the rotary engine, and especially our take on it. We turn the old rotary engine inside out. So there's something just beautiful and elegant about that. So we have the kind of the techno people that are just tinkerers that love the concept. Then you have the environmentalists, people that see, hey, if we can cut fuel consumption by 30%, that's a really big deal, right? That can change the whole climate, quite literally. And then you have a third group that just sees, hey, this is an industry that is 150 years old. That's how long it's been since the combustion engine had a major disruptive change. 150 years. So this is a technology space that's due for disruption. So I think that's why we're resonating. And the fact is, we can put up a picture of our little tiny engine against a diesel engine, and you see that 10x reduction in size and weight. It's very visual. It's very quick. People can understand what we do in 30 seconds. And I think that helps.
LiquidPiston has done basically 3 CF deals, and that's you know, in a serial raise of capital. What's your future look like for as you continue to raise capital? Are you going to stay on this path? What's the plan, and where does StartEngine fit in it?
We're interested in doing the reason we switched to StartEngine and what we're looking to do in the future is to do a Reg A. So a Reg A allows a company to do a much larger offering. It's almost like a mini IPO. And that's what we're really excited about for the future. We can raise, we're going to be looking to raise up to $25 million on the StartEngine platform.
So you used StartEngine to the beginning to do 3 CF deals, $1,070,000 a piece. Were they all that size?
So we were actually on a different platform for the first 2. And the third one was with StartEngine. And yes, they pretty much all maxed out.
Why did you switch platforms? Why did you choose StartEngine on the third deal?
Because of the ability to do the Reg A. So it was kind of a trial to go with StartEngine. And while we're setting up for the Reg A, we did the CF. We were blown away by the response of it, but I think it just leads very naturally into the Reg A.
So you're looking to stay with StartEngine. It doesn't sound like you're going back to the venture capital community.
I don't see any reason why we would go back to them at this point. We might be looking for strategic investment from corporations that have a venture capital arm. I'd be open to that, but I think it's a win-win working with investors directly with the crowdfunding approach.
How helpful were the staff, the people, the individuals involved in compliance and the actual filing at StartEngine? You had a chance to compare them to a previous platform. How would you stack them up in just rating them?
I don't really want to get into a direct comparison of platforms. Both platforms worked well for us, but the process at StartEngine was just smooth, professional. They were helpful, and they made it seamless. They're also very detail-oriented. They really, you can tell that they really care, and that compliance is an important issue, right? We want to get this right and not be sloppy about it. So I actually really like that, and that's helpful for the company and for investors.
So regardless of platform, how important is it to have a base of investors already resident on any platform? And do the amounts matter to you? I mean, is it important to have them waiting? Do you think you have to sell them from scratch? The fact that there is a critical mass, does that come into your thinking?
You definitely see that momentum is important. And in our round that oversubscribed within 9 hours, I talked to these investors, and a lot of them tell me that they came back and invested 3 times over the course of the day. And then I have quite literally thousands of investors that emailed me saying that they've been waiting for us to have another event, and they missed it. They just didn't check their email in time. So it was just an incredible dynamic. But with the Reg A, we'll be able to have a broader offering. So we're excited for that.
Alec, thank you so much for your time today, and congratulations on your success. And I look forward to seeing you again on the StartEngine. It sounds like you've used the platform very successfully. And that's a good sign for others that are going to come after you. It's wonderful. I love to see innovation and disruption in any market, and certainly that's what's happening here. Take care, my friend.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Appreciate it, and really enjoyed this opportunity. Thank you.